Free NFL picks. This is action here for Sunday, November 20th. Tony T, our NFL pick show here for Sunday action. We have all 12 games. Before we get into just a couple of things, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Free NFL picks are updated all season long. Free picks every day from all the major sports. We also have NBA, college football, college basketball, NHL, World Cup, and more. It's a good time to subscribe. And also, if you would support our channel, thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it. Then visit Tony'sPicks.com, our multi-capper site showcasing top cappers in our industry. Click the links to the hot cappers. Get signed up for our long-term passes. Guys like Ramon, who's been hot. Nick has put up great numbers as well. Daniel, Mindy. Click the link and get signed up to our long-term passes. You'll find our premium picks here at the center of the page. Our best bets are right here with the best bet tab. Each capper can release one best bet per sport here on our site here. Many of them have more than one best bet, so check it out. $15 premium picks. Each capper can designate one of their picks on their card as a $15 premium pick just to introduce their service to new and existing customers. 3-packs, also great value, so check them out. There are lots of them up on the board today. Don't forget about our pick ticker. If you'd like to buy a pick a la carte, there on our pick ticker, you'll find them there as well. Our promo code, you can save 20% off all premium pick packages. When you use that promo code TonyT at checkout, you can access our page by clicking the link in the description, then the All Cappers tab to get signed up. Also love to hear from you guys, so post your picks in the comments below. We are looking for cappers. You can apply over at our site on the first section, and our podcast available on all major platforms. Every pick in podcast form, just search Tony's Picks. All right, let's go ahead. Let's get this one started. Rams and Saints NFL pick here for Sunday. Wide receiver Kupp and center Allen out for the Rams on defense, and end is questionable. Left tackle out and guard questionable for New Orleans. On offense, on defense, both defensive ends, a linebacker, cornerback are out. Rams fall to 3-6 with their 27-17 home defeat to Arizona. Rams posted only 256 yards, 66 rushing on 20 carries. Defensively, the Rams held the Cardinals to 3 yards per attempt with 220 passing on 37 attempts. Matthew Stafford returns under center after missing the past game with a concussion. This season, Stafford has a 68% completion rate, but just 6.8 yards per attempt. New Orleans drops to 3-7 after a 20-10 road defeat at Pittsburgh. Saints gained at 236 yards with 29 rushing on 15 carries. On defense, they allowed 5 yards per rush with 162 passing yards on 30 attempts. Andy Dalton completed 63% of his passes with 6.4 yards per attempt. He passed for 174 yards with a touchdown and 2 interceptions. This season, Dalton, 85% completion rate, 7.2 yards per attempt. Past 3 games, Rams averaging 228 yards a game, 2.9 yards per rush. They're giving up an average of 3 sacks a game in this period. Saints have shown more pulse offensively, and that Kupp injury huge for the Rams. Play here will be New Orleans -2.5. Jets and Patriots NFL pick here for Sunday. Jets receiver Davis out with their right guard out. Their starters on defense healthy. Patriots have receiver questionable. On defense, a linebacker questionable. New York improved to 6-3 with their 20-17 home win to Buffalo as they hit their bye week. Jets gained 310 yards, 174 rushing on 34 carries. Defensively, they allowed over 6 yards per rush to the Bills with 183 passing on 34 attempts. Zach Wilson completed 72% of his passes with 6.2 yards per attempt. He passed for 154 yards and a touchdown. Season-wide, Wilson, a 57% completion rate with 7.2 yards per attempt. New England 5-4 after their 26-3 home win to Indianapolis as they hit the bye week. Patriots posted a season low, 203 yards with 70 rushing yards on 28 carries. On defense, they limited the Colts to under 4 yards a carry with 29 passing on 29 4 yards per carry in that game. They registered 9 sacks. Now, Mac Jones completed 66% of his passes with 4.9 yards per attempt. This year, Jones a 66% completion rate with 6.8 yards per attempt. Win forecast in New England. Past 3 games, Jets running game generating 5.2 yards a carry. Patriots in this period allowing 4.5 yards per rush. On the offensive side in this period, Patriots in this period 3.3 yards per rush, 5.2 yards per pass attempt. The play here will be on the Jets +3.5. Bears and Falcons NFL pick Sunday. Chicago has a guard questionable on offense. On defense, a defensive end questionable. Falcons healthy starters on offense and a corner on defense questionable. Chicago fell to 3-7 with their 31-30 home defeat to Detroit Lions. Bears gained a season high of 408 yards with 258 rushing on 35 carries. Defensively, they limited the Lions to 3 yards per rush with 228 passing yards on 26 attempts. Justin Fields completed 60% of his passes with 8.4 yards per attempt. He did run for 147 yards and 2 touchdowns. This year, Fields a 59% completion rate with 7.2 yards per attempt. Fields is averaging 7.2 yards per rush on the year. Atlanta fell to 4-6 with their 25-15 defeat on Thursday night to Carolina. Falcons gained 291 yards with 138 rushing on 25 carries. Defensively, they surrendered nearly 5 yards per rush with 101 passing on 16 attempts. Marcus Mariota, 63% completion rate, 6.2 yards per attempt. He threw for 186 yards with 2 touchdowns and an interception. This year, Mariota, 62% completion rate, 7.6 yards per attempt. Bears defense passed 3 games, allowing 381 yards, 4.5 yards per rush, 9.3 yards per attempt. They're not getting pressure on the quarterback and allowed an average of 38 points per game in this period. Falcons also struggling to get pressure on the quarterback in this period. The play here will be Chicago and Atlanta over 49. Panthers and Ravens NFL pick Sunday. Panthers fullback questionable on defensive, defensive tackle, and safety are out with a cornerback questionable. Ravens quarterback Jackson, running back Edwards, and tight end Andrews questionable. Their defensive starters are healthy. Carolina improved to 3-7 with their 25-15 home win to Atlanta on Thursday night. Panthers gained 333 yards with 232 rushing on 47 carries. On defense, they allowed over 5 yards per rush to the Falcons with 153 passing on 30 attempts. Baker Mayfield to get the start here on the year. Mayfield career lows 56% completion rate with 6.5 yards per attempt. Baltimore sits at 6-3 with their 27-13 road win at New Orleans as they hit the bye week. Ravens gained 319 yards with 188 rushing on 40 carries. On defense, they allowed 3 yards per rush to the Saints with 195 passing on 30 attempts. Mark Jackson dealing with an illness and missed practice Friday. Coach Harbaugh expects Jackson to be ready, though. In the win against the Saints, Jackson completed 54% of his passes with 6.2 yards per attempt. For the season, Jackson a 62% completion rate with career low 6.9 yards per attempt. He is averaging a career high 7.5 yards a run. Panthers off the bye. The defense will be sharp. Past 3 games, they are holding teams to 309 yards, 3.8 yards per rush. Panthers offense, though, on the road is gaining just 296 yards. The play here will be on Carolina and Baltimore under 41.5. Commanders and Texans NFL pick here for Sunday. Commanders running back J.D. McKissick out. On defense, Chase Young out. A linebacker is out and questionable as well. Texans starters on offense healthy. A corner is out with the defensive end questionable for Texans defense. Now Washington, they improved to 5-5 with their 32-21 road win at Philadelphia on Monday night. Commanders gained 330 yards with 152 rushing on 49 carries. Defensively, they allowed over 4.5 yards per rush to the Eagles with 170 passing on 26 attempts. Taylor Heineke completed 58% of his passes, 7.3 yards per attempt. He threw for 211 yards and an interception. This season, Heineke a 62% completion rate, 6.9 yards per attempt. Houston, they're 1-7-1 after a 24-16 road defeat to the New York Giants. Texans posted 387 yards in the game, 101 rushing on 19 carries. They allowed 4 yards per rush to the Giants with 176 passing on 17 attempts. Davis Mills completed 59% of his passes, 8.6 yards per attempt. He threw for 319 yards, a touchdown, and pick. This year, Mills a 62% completion rate with 6.7 yards per attempt. Short week and back-to-back road games for the Commanders after that divisional road win on Monday night at the Eagles. Don't like this spot for Washington. The play here will be Houston +3. Eagles and Colts NFL pick Sunday. Philadelphia starters are healthy. Indianapolis tackle questionable. On defense and defensive end out with linebacker questionable. Philadelphia fell to 8-1 with their 32-21 home defeat on Monday Night Football to the Washington Commanders. Eagles a season low 264 yards with 94 rushing on 20 carries. On defense, they surrendered 3 yards per rush to the Commanders with 178 passing yards on 29 attempts. Jalen Hurts completed 65% of his passes with 6.7 yards per attempt. He threw for 175 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. This season, Hurts career highs 68% completion rate, 8.4 yards per attempt. Indianapolis improved to 4-5-1 after their 25-20 road win at Las Vegas. Colts produced 415 yards, 207 rushing on 30 carries. On defense, they held the Raiders to 3 yards per rush with 232 passing on 38 attempts. Matt Ryan completed 75% of his passes for 7.9 yards per attempt. This year, Ryan a 69% completion rate, 6.9 yards per attempt. The Colts running game key to this one, keeping Ryan at 20 to 25 passing attempts is 2. Despite all their issues, the Colts, a good defensive team, they hold teams at 3.8 yards per rush, 6.5 yards per pass attempt. Past 3 games, Colts allowing only 291 yards, 3 yards per attempt. Short week in travel for Philadelphia. They have failed to cover 3 of 4 on the road. That came against Washington, who had Wentz at quarterback, and the Eagles got all their points in one quarter, and they got shut out in the second half. The play here will be Indianapolis at +7. Lions and Giants NFL pick Sunday. Detroit receiver Reynolds is out with the center questionable. On defense, out as a defensive end with linebacker and safety questionable. Giants tight end out and tackle doubtful on offense. Receivers Robinson, Galladay questionable. On defense, their nose tackle is questionable as well. And Detroit improved here 3-6 with their 31-30 road win at Chicago. Lions offense gained 323 yards with 95 rushing on 31 carries. Defensively, they allowed 7 yards per rush with 150 passing on 20 attempts. Jared Goff, 73% completion rate with 9.1 yards per attempt. He threw for 236 yards and a touchdown. On the year, Goff, a 64% completion rate with 7.6 yards per attempt. Giants improved to 7-2 with their 24-16 home win at Houston. Giants produced 367 yards with 191 rushing on 47 carries. Defensively, New York allowed 5 yards per attempt with 286 passing on 37 attempts. Daniel Jones, 76% completion rate in the win with a season-high 11.6 yards per attempt. On the year, Jones, a 66% completion rate with 6.7 yards per attempt. On the road, the Lions defense giving up 424 yards, 5.5 yards per rush, 8.1 yards per attempt. Giants are running for 4.4 yards a carry in this period, and the Lions only 3.6 yards per attempt. Now, in the past 3 games, the wind chill could be below freezing with 17 miles per hour forecasted. Goff on the road in cold weather, the massive concern here. The play here will be New York Giants -3. Browns and Bills NFL pick here for Sunday. Gameplay will be played in a neutral field in Detroit due to bad weather in Buffalo. Cleveland tight end questionable and a defensive corner is out. Bills fullback questionable. On defense, an end, linebacker and corner out. A safety questionable. Cleveland fell to 3-6 with their 38-17 road defeat at the Miami Dolphins. Browns gained a season low 297 yards with 112 rushing on 24 carries. Defensively, they surrendered 6 yards per rush to the Dolphins with 296 passing on 33 carries. Jacoby Brissett completed 63% of his passes with 6.1 yards per attempt. He threw for 212 yards and a touchdown. On the year, Brissett, a 64% completion rate, 7.2 yards per attempt. Buffalo dropped to 6-3 with their 33-30 home defeat to the Minnesota Vikings. Bills gained 486 yards, 175 rushing on 27 carries. Defensively, they allowed nearly 6 yards per rush with 334 passing on 50 attempts. Josh Allen, 67% completion rate, 7.7 yards per attempt. He threw for 330 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. Bills had 4 turnovers in the game. On the year, Allen, a 64% completion rate, 8 yards per attempt. Past 3 games, Bills allowing 396 yards, 5.9 yards per attempt. In this period, their offense posting 391 yards, 6.1 yards per rush. The play here will be Cleveland and Buffalo over 50. Raiders and Broncos NFL pick Sunday. Las Vegas receiver Adams and left tackle questionable. On defense, 2 linebackers are questionable. Broncos receivers Judy and Ham are out. A center and right tackle questionable. On defense, a linebacker questionable. Las Vegas fell to 2-7 with their 25-20 home defeat to Indianapolis. Raiders gained 309 yards in the game, 77 rushing on 24 carries. On defense, they surrendered nearly 7 yards per rush with 208 passing on 28 attempts. Derek Carr completed 63% of his passes with 6.5 yards per attempt. He threw for 248 yards and 2 touchdowns. This year, Carr a 62% completion rate, 6.8 yards per attempt. Denver fell at 3-6 with that 17-10 road defeat at Tennessee. Broncos gained 313 yards, 65 rushing on 25 carries. Defensively, they allowed 3 yards per rush to the Titans with 244 passing on 36 attempts. Russell Wilson completed 50% of his passes with 6.8 yards per attempt. He had 286 passing yards with a touchdown and pick. This year, Wilson career lows 57% completion rate, 7.3 yards per attempt. Past 3 games, both teams struggling to stop the run, allowing 5.2 yards per rush. Broncos health a concern here. Jacobs running will aid Carr in this one. The play here will be Las Vegas at +3. Bengals and Steelers NFL pick Sunday. Pittsburgh offensive starters are healthy with the corner out. Bengals receiver Chase out with defensive starters healthy. Cincinnati improved to 5-4 with their 42-21 home win to Carolina. Bengals posted 464 yards with 241 rushing on 39 carries. Defensively, the Bengals allowed under 4 yards per rush to the Panthers with 164 passing on 30 attempts. Joe Burrow completed 78% of his passes with 7.4 yards per attempt. He passed for 206 yards and a touchdown. This year, Burrow, 70% completion rate, 7.6 yards per attempt. Pittsburgh, 3-6 after their 20-10 home win to New Orleans. Steelers gained 379 yards, 217 rushing on 43 carries. Defensively, they limited the Saints to under 2 yards per rush with 157 passing on 28 attempts. Kenny Pickett completed 60% of his passes, 6.6 yards per attempt. He had 199 passing yards. Now on the year, Pickett, 67% completion rate, 6 yards per attempt. Bengals offense on the road, though, averaging only 290 yards, 3.8 yards per rush, 6 yards per pass attempt. Their defense on the road giving up nearly 5 yards a carry. Steelers' defense has been strong at home, giving up 17 points a game. Bengals have lost both divisional games on the road, held an average of 15 points a game. Play here, Pittsburgh +4. Cowboys and Vikings NFL pick Sunday. Dallas running back Elliott questionable. On defense, a defensive end and 2 linebackers are questionable. Minnesota starters are healthy on offense. And defensively, an end out and linebacker questionable. Dallas fell to 6-3 with their 31-29 road defeat at Green Bay, and that was in overtime. Cowboys gained 421 yards, 159 rushing on 31 carries. On defense, they allowed over 5 yards per rush to the Packers with 208 passing on 20 attempts. Dak Prescott completed 59% of his passes with 5.8 yards per attempt. He threw for 265 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. On the year, Prescott, a 64% completion rate, 6.7 yards per attempt. Minnesota improved to 8-1 with their 33-30 road win at Buffalo. Vikings gained 281 yards with 147 rushing on 25 carries. On defense, they surrendered 6 yards per attempt to the Bills with 311 passing yards on 43 attempts. Kirk Cousins completed 60% of his passes, 7.1 yards per attempt. He threw for 357 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. On the year, the veteran has a 64% completion rate, 6.7 yards per attempt. Past 3 games, each team rushing for 5 yards per carry while giving up over 5 yards per rush themselves. This can open up plays downfield in the passing game for both teams. Play here, Dallas and Minnesota over 48.5. Chiefs and Chargers NFL pick Sunday. Smith-Schuster out for the Chiefs on offense and their defensive starters healthy. Receivers Allen and Williams expected to play, though listed as questionable. A tight end is also questionable. On defense, Bosa out. Kansas City improved to 7-2 with their 27-17 home win to Jacksonville. Chiefs gained 486 yards with 155 rushing on 27 carries. On defense, they allowed over 4 yards per rush to the Jaguars with 240 passing on 40 attempts. Patrick Mahomes completed 74% of his passes in the win, 9.5 yards per attempt. He threw for 331 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception. Chargers fell to 5-4 with their 22-16 road defeat at San Francisco. Chargers gained a season-low 238 yards, 51 rushing on 16 carries. On defense, they did allow under 4 yards per rush with 230 passing on 28 attempts. Justin Herbert completed 60% of his passes, 5.6 yards per attempt. He threw for 196 yards, a touchdown, and interception. This season, Herbert, 66% completion rate, 6.3 yards per attempt. KC has failed to cover their past 7 against the AFC. Chargers receivers back there. A huge boost here for LAC. The play here will be the Chargers at +5.5. All right, that was our NFL pick show here for action on Sunday. Make sure you like and subscribe. Visit Tony'sPicks.com for all our best bets. We'll have more picks a little bit later. Check out our morning show on Sunday, The Morning Steam, at 9 a.m. each time, live with Mindy and Ramon as they give out picks here for the card on Sunday. Lots going on there with NBA, NFL, college basketball, NHL. Check it out then. I'm Tony T, back later with more picks.